Right, ladies and gentlemen, this is a deliberately assembled, quirky lot of books from about 1830 to about 1930 or so. Some of them actually on the internet fetch quite a bit of money, but please be aware the condition of many of them is distressed, coverless, or disbound, or with sort of pages a bit sort of crinkled, or with some stain. So there is no guarantee as to condition. I can guarantee, however, that most of them are complete, apart from perhaps this one here, which has had a few pictures cut out, but they're reading copies just for interest, but they also look rather sort of decorative in their sort of jumbled Victorian way. We've got Scarce book, illustrated book, Thomson's Seasons, nice Victorian illustrated edition of Thomson's Seasons, 1920s book on fully illustrated on orchestral wind instruments, Country Pastimes for Boys, 1895, full of pictures and hunting and shooting stuff. We've got an 1830s book on the education of young men called Our Young Men. We've got Teach Yourself Swahili. We've got a fine 1902 edition of Jane Harrison's Greek Art. We've got this Mrs. Trollope, Anthony Trollope's mother, a charming book, single volume of 2, but there we go, it's sort of separate subject matter, of travels in Paris in the 1830s. We've got a little 1920s book on nooks and corners in Wimbledon, a book on the history of trade and commerce, fully illustrated. We've got an early edition, 1864, of Wilkie Collins, A Woman in White, with illustrations. We've got first edition of The Splendid Spur by Quiller Couch, a William Pickering printed book from of a 17th century subject matter. We've got Star of Childhood, a book of children's prayers from the 1880s. We've got a nice, rather handsome sort of Georgian book of essays, 1811, I think, called The Gleaner. Teach Yourself Hindustani, a very scarce book. I've seen copies in the hundreds of pounds of this, The Cloister Life of the Emperor Charles V, when he abdicated and became basically a monk. English Visitor in Czechoslovakia, hilarious dialogues from the 1930s. Major General Hector MacDonald, From Private to General. A book about Paris in the 1870 siege, written in 1871. Cecil Sharp, 1909, country dance book. Nicely illustrated Victorian children's book with little vignettes and charming pictures and so on. A 1909 first edition book on the calculus. Book on John Aubrey with nice Art Deco woodcuts in it, which I can't find at the moment, but there we go. 1928 American book, Colour Photography. Nice illustrated Victorian novel, very scarce, can't find any copies mentioned on the internet, of the 1870s. Georgian single volume book about Bertha's travels in England, all sorts of moral tales. An unusual Victorian tract called The Lizard and the Bluebottle. A book on Freemasonry in New York, the history of New York Freemasonry. Second volume of Coningsby, early edition of Disraeli's novel, and a book of 1820s or 30s parodies. There we go. All there, cheap starting price. Come and collect them. Thanks very much. Bye.